management. In between her studies, she has worked for a number of local consultants on a variety of projects, from construction monitoring at the Vancouver International Airport to conducting innovative research for the Olympic Village. So, interesting fact about Sara is that she is a very fast talker and is constantly slowing herself down. Here's hoping that she doesn't get ahead of herself during this presentation.
That you see on the screen in green to some of my non-engineer friends. I asked them, what do you think engineers do? And you can see their response in gray. They basically said engineers are very smart people who design impressive things, but they speak their own special language that no one else understands. As a civil engineering undergraduate at UBC, I learned about the variety of services and products that engineers offer society. But as I started to specialize a little bit and eventually started working, I found myself answering the same question over and over again. The question being, are these pipes large enough without being too large? And what are the implications of building these pipes on the natural and the built environment? So with that kind of background, I went to graduate school, and I started working on a project that changed my perspective of the engineering profession. The title of this presentation was Rain barrels versus land development. You can see a picture of both of those things up on the screen. And that is essentially the crux of my project. The proposal was to install rain barrels in houses neighboring an urban stream, and by doing that, trying to mitigate some of the negative impacts of land development on the aquatic habitat in the stream. The rain barrels were to capture rainwater and increase infiltration on site. You can see a picture of Vieira Creek on the screen. It's a highly urbanized watershed in Burnaby, and it supports about 2 kilometers of Class A fish habitat, as well as some other wildlife like the birds you see on the screen. The project was sponsored by the City of Burnaby, and the findings of the project will be informing municipal bylaw and regulation about rainfall capture and storage on site. Now that you know a little bit about my project, I'm going to switch gears a little bit. I'm going to put on my proverbial technical hat as I'm about to tell you about the technical aspects of the project. I'm also going to change costumes and put on my gumboots. Because as hydrological engineers, that's what we put on as we do our field work. Okay, ready? As many other engineering projects, I started with staring at plans and drawings and historical rainfall and flow data. The first task at hand was to pick a project site in the neighborhood that would suit all of our project requirements. Once we had the neighborhood picked, my supervisor and I were ready to install our data monitoring and data collection sites. You can see on the right-hand side of the screen the 2 weirs that we set up. Right behind the weirs, the data loggers that we use are hiding carefully, and sometimes we use buckets, very highly technical equipment, to collect additional data points for the research project. Another technical piece of the project was designing the rain barrels so they would self-drain at different rates depending on what the project needed. This was probably the most difficult technical bit because we were restricted by material availability and price, and we also needed a really flexible design because we had to implement this in very different settings in different houses. Once we had the technical piece in place, the challenge really was how do we get the idea off the paper and into people's houses? We had to deal with the most important part of the project, the part that would make it or break it, humans. In a little bit, you'll see me interacting with one of the homeowners, and it looks like a pretty simple routine interaction. But there was a lot of work that had to be done behind the scenes for me to be able to gain access to this homeowner and to be able to talk to them. So as I say that, I pick up another piece of costume, and I'll take on the role of a community builder and a marketer and a salesperson. You see up on the screen all the different project stakeholders that were involved. These people supported the project either financially or by providing time, space, expertise to the project. As you can see, there are a lot of different stakeholders, and I had to coordinate with them on a regular basis to get things done. Once the institutional support was in place for the project, there was really nothing else left to do other than getting people to open their home doors to us and to the rain barrels. And to do that, I studied some theories of community-based social marketing, and that gave me really useful tools to apply to this study. We started by developing communication collateral, sending people letters. But letters can only go so far. And what really got the job done was picking up the clipboard and knocking on people's doors over and over again. Another important thing to consider here was neighborhood dynamics, because in this kind of projects, neighbors can have a lot of influence on the success or the failure of the project. When people opened their doors to me, I was often faced with the question, why should I take these ugly green rain barrels and put it on my beautifully manicured lawn? And it really came down to incentives. Some people were incentivized by gardening, and some people were incentivized by their connection to the creek or their children's connection to the creek. So when it's all said and done, I'll put away my clipboard, and I'll take off my gumboots, and I'll take all of my data back to the city of Burnaby and hope to influence their policy regarding this issue in some way. To bring it all back together, I posed a question that I asked at the beginning of my presentation, this time to my engineer friends. And in a minute, you're able to see the responses on the screen in gray. You can see that they had a lot bigger responses than the other folks. As we move forward with this conference, I look forward to hearing about all of your different experiences in the engineering field and in the water and wastewater field. And I look forward to hearing about the times when you put on your gumboots and picked up your clipboard to get a job done. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Sarah. I can completely understand you. I just returned from Haiti recently and have been teased a few times about the photos of me and my gumboots down there. So, all right. So next we have Kevin Vieira, who is he works for Nelson Environmental. He's he's a graduate of the University of Manitoba with a Bachelor of Commerce degree and a major in marketing. He has 9 years of experience in industrial and municipal wastewater treatment field. And his interesting fact is that, and I'm not sure if it's him personally or him and his family, but they own a vineyard in Portugal. Very interesting.
Good afternoon. My family owns the vineyard, but I'll take credit to it. So if you guys want some wine, you can come to me. But today, again, my name is Kevin Vieira, and I work for Nelson Environmental, and we specialize in cold lagoon-based wastewater treatment. And today, we'll talk about a project that we worked in Dawson Creek, British Columbia, which was the Reclamation Water Treatment Plant. So Dawson Creek is located in northeastern British Columbia, has a population of just over 11,000 people. The city's water source is the Kiskatanawa River, which is plagued by high turbidity, and also has a all-you-can-eat Tony-Romas buffet. An ongoing issue there is ongoing issue in Dawson Creek was your potable water supply. Recent growth in the oil sector produced high pressures. So the city of Dawson Creek built a reclamation water treatment facility, which would produce 4,000 cubic meters per day by treating the available wastewater. It also had to meet BC's requirements for reclaimed water restrictions for unrestricted public access. So Shell Canada and Dawson Creek formed a partnership, and 85% of the reclaimed water went to Shell Canada, and the other 15% went to Dawson Creek, BC, which they could use to sell to the industry at a cheaper rate. And they could also use this water to use for sporting facilities and parks. This would reduce the potable water demand by 25% to ensure that Dawson Creek would meet future demands in the future. So Dawson Creek's strategy was to upgrade their existing wastewater lagoon facility with a reliable, simple, low operation and maintenance facility. It had to meet municipal sewer regulations for reclaimed water, and Nelson Environmental, which Sager was chosen for this, to ensure that adequate water supply for Dawson Creek and the surrounding communities had sufficient potable water for non-potable uses. So the Sager is your submerged attached growth reactor. It has a fully grade coarse gravel bed, which has a stable dense rock media, which is not susceptible to temperature shock. It has minimized complexity and also has an insulating top mulch layer, which prevents the bed from freezing. It is adaptable to any post-secondary lagoon systems. No lagoon is required. So the Sager is constructed with vertical side walls. Aggregate is filled in to provide a surface area for growth and attachments of your nitrifying biomass. And you can see that at the front end of the system, there's a horizontal chamber, which distributes the secondary wastewater flow throughout the cell. And then the back end of the system has a horizontal collection chamber, which collects the treated effluent and discharges it to the discharge distribution. And there's ADS, or linear aeration, throughout the Sager floor bed, which produces aerobic conditions, which is required for nitrification. And nitrification is your ammonia removal in cold temperatures. So in 2007, we built a demonstration facility in Steinbach, Manitoba. And here's the Sager performance data for it in 2008 and 2009. The top two lines is your influent coming in, which is your ammonia and your BODs. And the bottom two lines is your effluent of ammonia and your BODs. And the dotted line is just the water temperature. So you can see that ammonia was coming in about 20 milligrams per liter. We were able to reduce that by less than 1 milligrams per liter with temperatures less than 1 for water temperatures. And you can see that we reached a high of 60 milligrams per liter of your BODs in December of 2008. And we were able to reduce that by less than 5 milligrams, which was constant throughout 2008 and 2009. And I just have to mention that ammonia levels as toxic to fish in low concentrations. So the Dawson Creek treatment process started with your anaerobic lagoons for primary treatment, your aerated lagoons for secondary treatment, the Sager for your BOD and your TSS polishing, and we put a cloth disc filter for effluent filtration and chlorination for disinfections. So the next slide you're going to see here is the aerial view of Dawson Creek. There's 3 cells. The first cell we installed the ADS in 2004, and we provided the other 2 aerated lagoons, which followed into the Sager beds, which was constructed within the footprint of the existing lagoon system, which was restored ponds. And as you can see to your left, there's room for future Sagers if required treatment is needed. So construction started in early of 2011 and was commissioned in 2011. Shell Canada actually built a 50-kilometer pipeline from Dawson Creek facility to their site, and currently it's meeting all their effluent objectives prior to disc filters, and expected performance improvement as the Sager actually matures. Forget what the next slide is. All right, here was our target Sager effluent and our MSS requirements. As you can see, the design flow is 4,000 cubic meters. Our target for BOD was less than 5 milligrams per liter with an MSR limit of 10. Turbidity was less than 2 with the MSR limit of less than 5. Our target for our total suspended solids was less than 5 with the MSR limit of 10. So this is the Sager influent and effluent averages after 1 month of operation, which was in October 2011. Our BOD Sager influent was coming in at 11.8. We were producing less than 2. Our TSS was coming in at 10.6, and we were getting less than 4. And our ammonia was coming in at 30 milligrams per liter, and we were receiving less than 1.3 milligrams. So to summarize, for why do post-lagoon treatment with the Sager? Well, it provides a high-level wastewater treatment for cold temperatures. You're going to get your BOD and your TSS polishing. You're going to meet your ammonia limits of less than 1 in the summer months and then less than 2 in the winter months when temperatures are less than 1. You're going to get this. You're going to meet your CCMA guidelines if discharge is required, and it's adaptable to any post-secondary lagoon system, which I mentioned earlier. So to summarize what the Sager did for Dawson Creek was that the effluent colony met their MSR requirements for unrestricted public access. Their potable availability concerns were resolved. Potential for capital cost recovery for the city of Dawson Creek. Canada Water Magazine says that they'll earn about $1 million in revenue per year. And that effluent quality also meets the CCME requirements on a year-round basis if discharge is required. And this was all possible because of the Sager. And then on a side note, we are a Winnipeg company, but we will be cheering for the Vancouver Canucks tonight. So.